Can I ask, and this is a yes or no question, first, is the document Relationships and Sexuality Education published in 1996 by the NCCA, is that still the curriculum? It's called Relationships, Sexuality Education, an aspect of social, personal health education, interim curriculum. Is that the...
We're going to take a number of questions and then
just take note. My other questions are follow on from... Is that still the curriculum? Right, it's on the Department of Education's website. Does anyone know that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can take that. Yes, it is the curriculum, but it is not the only component of the curriculum.
Okay. Can I ask then, and there was some, I suppose, misinterpretation of our objection to the socialist bill. We were accused of being, it was a religious reasons, whatever. It wasn't. It was genuinely that we don't like to have any type of curriculum written down in legislation. It doesn't mean politicians can't be involved, but it means we don't write it down in legislation. So I have a number of questions on that curriculum because I suspect not many people have read this curriculum. And I do have concerns about it because some of the textbooks recommended by that curriculum are religious textbooks, in fact quite a few of them. So there's a textbook there called The Challenge of God by Niall Boyle, which is referenced, could be read in relation to sexually transmitted diseases, could be referenced in relation to personal integrity and family planning. There's also another text, and I assume it's religious, it's published by a religious publication called Lifeways, and that's also listed as relevant reading for personal integrity and some other aspects, I think gender discrimination as well. Why would religious textbooks be set down as part of the course curriculum for a non-religious subject? And I want to make it clear, I have absolutely no objection in religion class to anybody, any ethos expressing and teaching their own religion, that's fine. But why is there this intermingling of it here? It wouldn't be allowed in science. There's no way that anybody would be allowed to have a textbook on, that we would be told that evolution couldn't be taught, or the textbooks on the book of Genesis would be substituted for textbooks on evolution. So why are those textbooks listed down? Why were they ever listed, actually, on this particular curriculum? That's what I'd ask. And can I just... The question is, I suppose it was addressed by Ms. Sexton. You say it is mandatory. The ethos of the school shouldn't affect it. But already the department is listing out religious textbooks that should be or could be used in the programme. You did say though that it could be taught in light of the ethos, so there was a little clarity. I'd just like you to expand on that a bit more, please. I was shocked now when I saw that, when I actually did go and read the curriculum.
Deputy Murphy, you're welcome to attend our meeting and to pose a question.
Thank you very much, and thanks a lot for having these sessions. I think they're really important. Just two questions. Firstly, do you agree that there is a major problem in how RSE is actually delivered at endpoint to school students, particularly in relation to LGBTQ plus relationships, gender identity, contraception, sexual health, and in relation to consent? And secondly, and I think this is a really key question for the committee and for the NCCA, is the issue of religious ethos, because that was actually at the heart of the bill that we brought forward and was past the second stage, not an attempt to write a curriculum, which we weren't suggesting what we're doing, and it was also that the issue was recommended to be tackled by the 8th committee. And I just think you can't actually deal with the issue, well it's a question, but you accept that you can't deal with the issue of guaranteeing quality, modern, progressive relationship and sexual education without dealing with the question of religious ethos and the ability in the Education Act 1998 for boards of management for schools to say, well, our religious ethos trumps other things. And isn't it the case that you could have the most advanced RSE curriculum in the world and a board of management, as things currently stand, could say, well, no, this contravenes our religious ethos in relation to contraception, in relation to abortion, in relation to LGBTQ plus relationships or whatever, and say we're not going to teach that. And so does the department feel that these issues can be addressed without dealing with that obstacle of religious ethos in the Education Act? And is the NCCA going to review the implications of religious ethos in the current review that is underway? And is the NCCA if not currently planning to do that, certainly willing to incorporate that into the review. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy.
I'm going to deal with some of the ethos questions, if that's okay. All schools are required to teach all aspects of the RSE programme, primary and post-primary. Where ethos might have an impact is in relation to the method or the way in which they do that, or the resources that they choose to do it. But they don't have the option of leaving out aspects of the programme. You had asked the question, Deputy Byrne, about whether the programme that's currently available is the one that was designed in 1996, and I gave you a quick answer to that. That programme has been significantly supplemented since that time by a range of resources, and it may be of interest to members of this committee to perhaps go on to the Professional Development Support Service for Teachers, where those resources are, the up-to-date resources.
But the 1996 document is the curriculum.
Still, yes, it still is.
And those books that I reference, Lifeways is the video, and The Challenge of God are still recommended textbooks.
Yeah, well, what I will say to you is that the department doesn't recommend textbooks, but it does identify where it's possible to do so, resources that a school might choose to use. I don't have the information to be able to say why those particular ones were recommended back at that time. I presume it reflected a culture around that time. But certainly today the department develops, through its Professional Development Support Service and through the NCCA, a range of resources itself, and doesn't recommend any particular textbook. And those resources are developed and have been developed in collaboration with a number of other agencies, and my colleague Rita identified some of those. It is a reality, however, that the review, and I leave John maybe might say something further about the focus of the review, but the review will have to look at how RSE is actually implemented in order to gather real evidence to support the anecdotal impression, and I don't use anecdotal in a pejorative sense, but the anecdotal evidence that we have that there are issues around the implementation. And it's not purely anecdotal. We do have some evidence drawing on inspections in schools and drawing on other research that has been conducted, that ethos may well have an impact on how students hear what is being said to them and how the material is handled. And we also know that it may be cited by some teachers as preventing them from feeling very confident in dealing with the issues that are there. And certainly that is something that the review will very likely inquire into. But
just to be clear, because I think everybody asked version of this, are you saying that, as a matter of under the Education Act, that the ethos should not affect the teaching?
It should not affect the content of what is taught, Deputy, but it may affect the resources that are used, and it may affect the approach that is taken.
Allowed to affect the content?
No.
Is that not a bit of a Jesuitical kind of distinction there between?
Yeah, you're right, because obviously what's taught and how it's taught run side by side with one another. But the reality is that the 1998 legislation does provide that right to schools to protect their ethos. And
Just would that right be upheld in a science class if a school which decided to teach creationism, or use a resource which had creationism instead of evolution in a science textbook? I mean, these are issues under current debate in the north of Ireland and in the United States,
I can't answer whether that.
I know it's probably never arisen.
Yeah, I actually couldn't.
But it seems to me that if it's allowed to happen in RSE, why wouldn't it be allowed to happen in science?
I can't answer that question for you, actually.
Just on that, sorry, you stated there that the ethos may have an impact on how students hear what is being presented. Surely what students hear is being presented, if I'm a student, that's what's being said. So therefore the ethos is having a major impact on what's being presented.
And it may well be, as I said, that is one of the reasons why the review is actually charged with looking at the implementation of the curriculum.
But let's be clear, legally it shouldn't, is what you're saying. It can.
It should not impact the content of what is taught. And I made the comment about what a student would hear in response to Deputy Murphy's question about being a bit Jesuitical in separating them out. Yeah.